Hi folks, I hope you're well. So, I asked the question, why do churches keep on choosing American leaders or pastors to come to the UK, to Europe, and to other countries, when America is in such a mess itself? Well, obviously, one of the answers is they don't listen to God. They don't go to God first. They just decide. Yeah. They basically look at what every other church is doing. That's why you have a pattern in church. In any church in the world, you have the similar pattern. You go in, you have some songs, then you have a sermon, and you have tea and coffee afterwards. At some point in time, just before the sermon, maybe just after the songs, you'll have the messages, as in what, you know, the church people need to know. You'll have a tiny bit of prayer time, then you'll have the sermon, then you'll have a cup of tea and coffee afterwards. Then everyone goes home. That's the pattern. The pattern was copied by every single blinking church. Most churches have their leaders trained in some form of Bible college. Again, another pattern. Instead of going to God and saying, what do you want us to do? They just copy the pattern. Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. So, you're choosing their leaders. One church goes to America. Well, I explained to someone who answered the question that in the 90s, it was quite often South Africa that people were looking to because of the Rama movement and many other movements in South Africa where things were moving. And there seemed to be a work of God in that area. So that was the fashion. Get ministers from the area. Then those ministers were inviting round American preachers who went to South Africa, like Rick Godwin and Kenneth Copeland, in the 90s. Not Kenneth Copeland as he was later, but as he was in his early days. Very, very powerful ministers who were bringing something new. So, of course, then people started looking to America. The more charismatic churches were looking into America. So, of course, that spread to the Baptist churches. That spread to other types of churches. Because it's a fashion. Like now, you have that fashion where they're now looking at anything African just to bring that African culture into church. And why? Is it because that African culture brings God in such a powerful way? No. The African culture brings dance, it brings music, it brings a bit more va-va-va-vum into the church. Yeah. Is that what the church needs? No, the church needs God, but okay. It brings a little bit of, something different. And so now that's the fashion. And the reality is the church did exactly what the devil knew the church would do. They didn't learn from the Israelis during their relationship with God. When the Israelis had God, they had victories. When they looked to God, they had victories over kingdoms and kings. But because everyone had a king, eventually Israel said, we want a king. And God said, no, you've got me. With me you have victories over kingdoms and kings. Any kingdom and king. I take care of you, I feed you. I make sure you don't come under attack. And when you do, you're victorious. The other nations around here, they respect you because they know that you have me. But no, they wanted a king. So eventually God said, okay, you can have a king. For a short while, they were continuing to be victorious because they had a king that looked to God, David. But in a very, very short amount of time, after David and Solomon, they stopped looking to God. And then, after a while, they realised that other countries had governments. And so therefore they wanted a government. They got rid of the king and wanted a government instead. By this point, they had lost everything. And the church basically did the same. They had God, but the church says, no, we want to do things according to the world. The world has college. The world has order. They're McDonald's. So, yeah, we need to copy that sort of thing. We need that order in church. We need to be like McDonald's. You go into a church anywhere and it feels like home. That's the world. We want all of our pastors to be trained in the same system so that, we don't get any outrageous preaching or... Again, that's the world. We want our speakers to be entertaining, to be non-offensive, to be jokey. Again, that's the world. We want to do police checks on people. That's the world. When the governments tell us to close down because there's some virus going around, we will do what the government say. We won't look to God, we look to the government. We look to the world and we'll bow down. Yeah. So, the church never learnt the lesson from the Israelis. We have the Old Testament now as history of God's relationship with people and how people completely and utterly mismanaged that relationship and lost it. And what does the church do? Exactly the same. Copy paste. Yeah. That's why anyone who speaks truth gets banned, because you can't have someone coming in and upsetting the order. This safe space Christianity. I'm pretty sure it is probably the church that influences the colleges and the left wing with this safe space idea. And it's all about not upsetting the order. Because when Times Magazine did the video saying, "Is God dead?" the church overreacted massively and went to the world to find their solutions. Went to the devil to find solutions. Times Magazine says, "Is God dead?" and the church says, well, he might as well be, because we're going to go to the devil. Yeah. And not only are we going to do things according to the world, we're going to bring hippies in to run the church for a time. And this is where the safe space Christianity came from. The hippies. In the film The Jesus Revolution, we see that. We see the hippies being brought in. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying hippies should have been banned from the church, but leading the worship and leading churches with their beliefs that they had, dangerous. And here we are.